Hello and welcome to everyone. Thank you for being with us this morning or afternoon or evening, whatever time it may be for you. My name is Teresa Blumenstein, and I am the coordinator of JCOR, the Justice Coalition of Religious. And I have the privilege of working among the members of JCOR who are representing their congregations at the United Nations. And that includes 23 groups that represent over 200 congregations of Catholic sisters, priests, brothers, as well as their partners in mission. And we, in addition to conducting advocacy in the context of the United Nations, and most of the time at UN headquarters in New York, we also have the opportunity to connect with the members of our congregations who are serving in ministries of all types in over 100 countries around the world. And so our gathering here today is an opportunity for those of us who will be participating in the UN Commission on Social Development to come together as a faith-based community, as a group of spiritual leaders to ground ourselves and to build our sense of community with one another as we prepare to participate and hopefully contribute in some meaningful way to this conference in which we will all be participating. And so with that, I want to begin first by introducing that JCOR has a very rich resource that's available to all of you, which we have published specifically for this conference. And we simply refer to this as the JCOR Guide to CSocD 63. And of course, CSocD 63 being the abbreviation for the Commission for Social Development. And it is the 63rd time that this conference is gathering. And so in our written guide, which is available on our website and for which I will put a link in our chat box, you will find all of the information that you need to help you navigate this conference, whether it is in person that you will be participating here in New York, or whether you are following and engaging with the proceedings online. We have all of the logistical information, which you can see on your screen now. The very basics from when and where everything is happening, links to all of the schedules. But we also offer more conceptual details. For example, some explanation and some background information on what the Commission for Social Development is, which I'll just say in the most brief form, is an annual meeting to discuss the subject of social inequalities. And that means we typically talk about inequalities among groups that are identifying with different races, different countries, different age groups, different types of skills and abilities, the many ways in which we find to categorize ourselves as humans, but along the lines of which we often see great disparities with respect to very vital services and human rights, such as access to public services, to housing, to education, to healthcare, to the many types of services that governments are responsible for ensuring that all of their people have access to. And so it's those inequalities that concerns this commission, and around which we will be discussing and hopefully finding some solutions and making some progress during these next several days of the conference. And more specifically, within that very broad subject, there is always a theme, and anyone who has been helping to prepare for this year's commission or who attended the major orientation yesterday is already familiar in some way with the theme for the year, which is strengthening solidarity, social inclusion, and social cohesion to accelerate the delivery of the commitments of the Copenhagen Declaration on Social Development and the Program of Action of the World Summit for Social Development, as well as the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Now, that is an awfully long sentence, and there are quite a few important threads or themes within that theme. And today we will have some time to really reflect on some of the key concepts that are included in that theme, and hopefully allow ourselves to establish some personal perspective and comfort with speaking to various pieces of that very complex theme. Another important feature that you will find in the written guide is a brief, very brief explanation of some of the documents that are referred to in that theme, as well as a simple, kind of more plain definition of some of the key terms that are used in the theme, in the long form of the theme's name. But now I'd like to offer us that opportunity for some spiritual reflection and to explore those terms in a different way, in a less technical way. So we'll enter now into a space of spiritual reflection. We will be invited many times throughout this commission to consider the themes of solidarity, social inclusion, and social cohesion from a fairly technical and practical perspective. What makes the exchange of ideas and perspectives in a UN forum so rich is that each participant is welcome and encouraged to bring the gifts and insights of their own culture and their own experience to the table. As members of a faith-based community, some of the gifts that we certainly can offer to the UN community and to the global policy conversation are the culture of our faith tradition, our spiritual leadership, and the wisdom that we have gained through spiritual practice. To prepare ourselves to contribute to the Commission on Social Development from a position of spiritual authenticity, let us take time today to consider these themes: solidarity, social inclusion, and social cohesion from a spiritual perspective. To begin, we're familiar with the Commission's theme of solidarity as one of the core principles of Catholic social teaching. Our teaching tells us that to be in genuine solidarity is to be awake to the truth that no person or group is separate from the rest of society. As Pope Francis says in Laudato Si, creatures exist only in dependence on each other, to complete each other, in service of each other. In the Commission's theme of social inclusion, we hear a call to ensure that the most vulnerable members of society have access to all the most essential resources and activities of daily life. This is a secular description of our principle of preferential option for the poor. And finally, when we speak of the Commission's theme of social cohesion, we are calling for all members of creation to be united in a shared purpose that bears fruit for all. We are calling for everyone to recognize that the ideal society for all of us is one in which each person and creature enjoys well-being. This theme is a call for us to rally around the Catholic social teaching of the common good. In Laudato Si, Pope Francis illuminates an important relationship between these three principles: solidarity, option for the poor, and the common good. He wrote, "In the present condition of global society, where injustices abound and growing numbers of people are deprived of basic human rights and considered expendable, the principle of the common good immediately becomes logically and inevitably a summons to solidarity, a summons to a preferential option for the poorest of our brothers and sisters." Yet men and women of our postmodern world run the risk of a rampant individualism. Rather than responding to feelings of insecurity that are being felt around the world with a spirit of solidarity, we have allowed our insecurity to become a seedbed for collective selfishness. And when people become self-centered and self-enclosed, their greed increases. It becomes almost impossible to accept the limits imposed by reality. A genuine sense of the common good also disappears. And social norms are respected only to the extent that they do not clash with personal needs. In summary, Pope Francis diagnosed self-centered attitudes and worldviews as a failure of solidarity and a root cause of social division and social exclusion. Through this lens, we can understand a lack of solidarity as a spiritual crisis and a crisis of identity. We are misguided when we try to serve our self-interest by serving our own individual person, rather than serving the greater need of our whole community. A society experiencing exclusion and separation among its members is surely like a body whose organs have misunderstood their oneness in the body. If the heart fails to provide blood to the lungs because it is only concerned with serving itself, or the lungs fail to send oxygen to the heart because it is only concerned with serving itself, the body will become ill and every organ will suffer together. Good health is achieved only when every organ understands itself as one part in the greater whole. The same rule applies for us as individual people or nations. To establish solidarity in our society, economy, and ecosystems, we need social, economic, and environmental policies that are oriented toward the common good. We cannot hope to establish those policies and to keep them for many generations, however, unless we build political will to promote the common good. Such political will requires a cultural shift and spiritual maturity across all nations. Building global solidarity requires us to undergo spiritual growth. With that in mind, I invite you all to enter into a brief meditation to reinforce our own sense of solidarity. We meditate on our identity as parts of a greater whole, so that we might invite those who we meet during the commission into the same journey of spiritual growth. As we proceed, you may wish to close your eyes, or you might choose to focus on the images on the screen. It is easy to think of yourself as one complete and independent creature. But picture yourself eating or working or moving through the world. In any of these activities, are you one creature acting alone? Before you answer, look inward. Your body is comprised of 1 quadrillion cells. And of your quadrillion cells, 90% are not human cells. Your body is a community. And without those other microorganisms that live inside your body, you would perish in hours. You, like every living creature, are a little universe formed of a host of organisms as numerous as the stars of heaven. Take a deep breath and let it go. With every single breath, recognize that you are exchanging oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other gases with the living beings around you. Imagine what happens when you take a bite of food. With every bite, recognize that you are absorbing part of a plant or an animal. As you digest, their glucose, their proteins, and the vitamins from their bodies will continue dissolving into your body. They will eventually become part of your muscles and your other tissues. And when you use those muscles to move through the world, you will also leave behind traces of yourself, like your skin and your sweat. Those traces of you will then be absorbed into the soil and eventually be integrated into the bodies of plants and other creatures. Turn your attention to the skin in which you live. We humans often imagine that the skin is an impenetrable barrier that defines the boundaries of each human person. But let us examine this supposed barrier more closely. Looking at your skin, notice the pigmentations, the ravines, the scars, the pores, the hairs, the nails. This supposed boundary of yourself is perpetually in flux. It is always losing cells and generating new ones. It is always adding new creases and markings, and it changes in pigmentation from day to day. It is also permeable, always allowing moisture, salt, and oils in and out. The skin is not the outer limit of yourself. Your individual body is an open system. It is suspended in relationship with countless other small bodies. Together, all these bodies are in service of the larger body of creation. And your body could not exist any other way. Now, recall the laugh of one of your favorite people. Let that sound reverberate through you, from your cheek muscles all the way through your shoulders and your spine. Notice how the memory of that laugh feels in your body. Play your favorite song in your head. Perhaps you will feel a desire to move your head or your feet to the rhythm of that song. Notice these ways that you have a feeling in response to these emotional expressions of others. Maybe they even alter your mood entirely. Notice the power of these recollections to drive your emotional experience. Consider how difficult it is to even imagine an emotional experience that is entirely detached from the world beyond your own body. Why is it so difficult to imagine? Because, like your body, your emotions are also an open system. Your emotions are also suspended in relationship with countless other creatures' emotions. Together, all these emotions are in service of the larger body of creation. And your emotions could not exist any other way. Now, think of a favorite book or academic course that you have taken, something that you would consider formative for you, something that helped to shape your worldview. The authors and the teachers of that book or that course collected a symphony of ideas from many sources, mixed them together with great care, and passed them along to you so that you could blend them into your own symphony of knowledge. When you then share your own mixture of ideas with others, you too pass on these gifts of knowledge, which came from the minds of many creatures. The ideas become part of the knowledge of every person with whom you share them. They become a part of these other selves. Consider that even language itself, the basic medium through which we form and communicate ideas, could never have come about without intellectual collaboration among different humans. In other words, like your body and your emotions, your intellect is also an open system. It is suspended in relationship with the intellects of countless other creatures. And together, all these intellects are in service of a larger body of creation. And your intellect could not exist any other way. Take another deep breath and release it. Imagine that your physical being, your emotional being, and your intellectual being have no borders. They extend beyond your body without limit. They melt into a sea of life with the bodies, emotions, and intellects of other creatures. In this sea, we experience all pleasure and pain together. We feel all joy and sorrow together. We gain knowledge and we thirst for knowledge together. We dance, we play, we struggle, and we heal as one body. All are included, all are united. This is solidarity. This is not a dream or a vision. This is the reality of our lives, even in this moment in which we see much exclusion and division in the world around us. To awaken ourselves to this reality, to awaken ourselves from the delusion that we are separate, that is the solidarity we need. Let us conclude our meditation with 3 deep breaths, each representing a petition to God. First, a breath of prayer for inclusion. Second, a breath of prayer for unity. Third, a breath of prayer for solidarity. Amen. Thank you all very much for going with me into that meditation. Perhaps it was something unusual for you or not the way that you are accustomed to praying or reflecting, but I appreciate that we can experiment and try new things and indeed hopefully grow through our experimentation together. So with a renewed awareness, hopefully, of our interdependence, let us open our eyes and return to our planning for the commission and the week ahead. And so what I would like to do now is invite you to introduce yourselves by way of also sharing what you hope for or what you hope will come out of your participation in this commission this week. And ways that you might think about that are by asking yourself, what is it that I hope to learn through my participation this week? Or with whom do I hope to make a connection as I participate? Or perhaps, what is the message that I hope to deliver, or an idea that I hope to reinforce while I am participating? And so I will invite each of us to first take one quiet minute to consider how you might like to respond to one of these questions. And after that minute, I will invite us to one by one introduce ourselves by name and congregation, perhaps by country, and then to share your thoughts on your hopes for this participation in this commission. So first, our quiet minute of thought and reflection. Okay. So now we will begin our introductions of ourselves. And as a small sample, I will offer a sample introduction of myself, although you have already heard a bit of what I would share, which is to say, my name is Teresa, and I am connected with many congregations through my work with JCOR. And I am from the United States and continue to live in the United States. And my message, as I just had the opportunity to share with all of you, what I hope for this commission is that this community of spiritual leaders is able to help increase political will for genuine solidarity in our policies around the world, by helping to encourage spiritual growth among our political leaders, and growth in their concept of our interdependence. And I will now invite us one by one to introduce ourselves in the same way. And if I call on you and you're not ready yet, feel free to say, please continue with the next person, and we will come back to you. Or if you do not wish to share anything other than your name, you can also say that too. So I will invite first Kathy Wilkins. Please go ahead, Kathy.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Um, I work with the Religious of the Sacred Heart of Mary in Tarrytown, New York, and I actually do communications and fundraising, but I've recently taken on some of the social justice promotion work as well. So this is all relatively new to me. Um, and I just was really through the meditation and through some of your comments, Teresa, really touched and thinking about our current world situation, how important this work is. And that I hope that I'm able to communicate that not only to our congregation, but to a broader public as well.
Thank you, Kathy. Next, could I call upon Kevin Colley?
And good morning. Thank you, Teresa, for convening us. Thank you for the deeply thoughtful reflection time. Uh, I'm Edmund Wright's Christian brother, and I've been at the UN post for too many years. Right now, starting in 2006. So it's been a wonderful journey. I'm very happy to be part of it even now. My concern or my interest, I think, right now more is more about I'd like to know more about what my colleagues see as a principal concern uh, to bring forward the work of care of the earth. I know it's a commission on social development, but it's hard to separate social development from the care of the earth, in particular these days when we are very much aware of the deterioration of the natural world uh, in many respects because of our own behavior. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what people have to say about that aspect of our time and our work at the United Nations. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And surely those peoples among us who are the closest to defense of the earth and have spiritual closeness to the earth are surely people who have become marginalized within the human society. So that fits well, I think, even as we discuss social development and social inequality. Could we hear next from Jane Caspilio?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. And thank you, Teresa, for that very profound reflection and meditation and for helping us to be grounded. I think it's a gift that we are gathered here for spiritual preparation. Um, I am Jane Caspilio, and I represent the Medical Mission Sisters to the United Nations. Um, for me, coming from that reflection, as a society or as a congregation, the recent chapter that we had, the theme is called to become one for the healing of the nations. And I find that the meditation also that we had such a healing experience uh, to get to know or to be aware of how interconnected and interrelated we are. I just can't imagine a world if if we take that seriously in our everyday lives. So connecting it with the CSocD and the theme, um, I hope to learn how to translate this spiritual um, ground that we had into the political arena, such as the United Nations. Yeah, when it comes to just to be critically aware of what is happening, what is the root cause of what do you call inequality, and how to translate that into policies to um, improve the lives of everyone, and yeah, to have that to that we experience a better world, um, that no one is excluded. So that's my hope to learn in this, not only CSocD, but as we continue to be here at the UN. I think it's a gift that CHACOR is offering this welcome gathering, because as faith-based organization, the UN is already recognized in the last um, Pact for the Future Summit of the Future, the role of the faith-based organizations in this UN space. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And I'd next like to invite Sandy Figueroa.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, brothers and sisters. I am from New York, the United States, as you can tell by the way I speak. And I represent the Society of St. Vincent de Paul in the United States to the UN. This is my first time, so this is really, when you ask what do I hope to learn, I'm saying to myself, my God, there's so much to learn. So, but as our Sister Jane has said, something that struck me, how to take our spiritual messages or spiritual message, some of us see us as really one message, and make this inclusive in our political scene, not just here in the United Nations, because we do have people who are listening, but and especially now in the transition that the United States is facing. I hate to use the word Americans because we also have North America, Central America, and South America, and thinking in terms of how to take that message of that beautiful reflection that you gave us of our solidarity, of our oneness, and not be so divisive. And in the United States, this is very, very difficult when we have a lot of people who are working very, very hard collectively to see what we can do, how we can change this. And here in the UN, which is the entire world, how broad that is. And so, excuse me. I'm looking to see how we can get that message across, and also to learn a great deal from I just feel like I'm in a candy store, you know, and all of these flavors and all of these types of candies are here, and now I've got to sort them out before I can even begin to think of tasting them. So thank you for allowing us to share, Sister Teresa.
Thank you, Sandy, for that most optimistic view of the opportunities to work, to opportunities to do important work that are before us. That's a great perspective. I would next like to invite Marta Santos.
Hola, buenos días, buenas tardes para
Hello,
todos. Yo
good
voy a hablar en
morning, good
español.
afternoon. I'm going to speak
Les
in
hablo desde
Spanish.
España.
So
Trabajo
I am in
para
Spain.
el Instituto de la
I
Bienaventurada
work
Virgen María, las
for
Hermanas de Loreto.
the Institute of Sisters of
Y
Loreto.
la verdad que lo bueno, también como
And
todos los hermanos y
well,
hermanas anteriores, agradecerte,
as
Teresa,
all
la
brothers and
meditación ha
sisters here,
sido muy
thank
hermosa
you,
y muy
Teresa,
profunda.
for the meditation. It was really
Me ha
deep, it was
llamado la
really
atención
profound.
especialmente
And I was
cómo
struck
has
by
hablado de esta
the way
inclusión,
you talked
unicidad y
about
solidaridad,
inclusion,
no como algo a conseguir,
unicity,
sino como algo
solidarity, not
a
about
descubrir que
something
ya
we need to
existe, que está
reach,
entre
but about
nosotros.
something we need to discover
Y un
because it's
poco
already amongst
esa es
us.
también como mi gran motivación para,
That's
bueno, en realidad para todo mi
exactly
trabajo como
my
representante
motivation for
de
all
las
my work
hermanas
as a
en España, ¿no?
representative
Y
of the
en la ONU.
sisters in Spain and
Que es
well, in the
esto
UN.
que como organizaciones
So
religiosas, ¿verdad?
as
Creo que tenemos como
faith-based
misión que es,
organization,
eh,
I think our mission
a mí me gusta mucho esta frase de que la esperanza es una
is
opción política, y creo que en
to
estos
make people understand
momentos
that
tan
hope is a
duros no
political
corren buenos
statement.
tiempos, ¿verdad?
And of course,
Para la
we
esperanza, y sin
see that
embargo,
right
es
now
ahora
everything is
cuando
so
nuestra esperanza está
complicated
siendo
for
puesta a prueba,
hope.
cuando
Hope
nosotros y
now has to
nosotras
be shown.
pues tenemos algo que decir. tenemos
and
algo que aportar.
we have something to say about
Y bueno,
that.
pues desde ahí, con humildad, pero a la vez con firmeza,
So,
¿verdad?
of course, being
Poder
humble,
dar
but
testimonio
also being
de nuestra
bold.
esperanza
We
en este
need
mundo convulso.
to be a witness of this hope in this world today. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said, Marta. Next, I would like to invite Matthew Thomas.
Hi, good morning. Oh, I think it is something else in other parts of the world. Anyway, greetings to you. I'm here in New York. I'm a solutioner Don Bosco, and we are working with young people in difficult situations all over the world. And I am representing the congregation at UN. Well, Teresa, thank you for that profound meditation. It was really good. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. CSocD comes out with the themes of solidarity, inclusion, cohesion. Well, I'm trying to say these words that we hear outside our congregation, our spiritual realm and all that, actually they are the words which are loaded with a lot of spirituality. And I would like to use the same words in our language and say this is gospel, this gospel language. Yeah, that's where I am. Thank you.
Quite agree. Very strong connections in these ideas, just different language. I'll next invite Kayula and Babita, who are sharing, I think, one device to join us today.
Yes. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for that reflection. It was very beautiful. Kayula Lesa from Zambia, currently with Unanima International at in New York for internship, but I do advocacy work in Zambia. Yes, the words are loaded and they sound very good. So I look forward to hearing really what these mean in practical terms. I mean, through conversations. But in the heart of it also, poverty is blamed for many social ills. I would like to hear, a lot about poverty and how then we can work together, countries and also as a church, to fight poverty or to address issues of poverty. Thank you.
I am Babita Kumari, medical mission sister intern at the UN right now. But I am coming from India for this 4-month exposure program to the United Nations. And I'm looking forward to learn many things because this is a very important topic. And first of all, I would like to congratulate Teresa for a beautiful prayer you leading to a great, very reflective prayer that you led and meditation. And as I would like to learn and more about the justice part, that how we are giving and delivering to the people at the grassroots level, and with all the work that we are talking here, I mean, how we can connect to the people in the grassroots level. So I'm looking forward to listen and to learn more about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And the great intention there, if we return to the metaphor of thinking about the body and parts of the body, it's so important to remember that everything we do, there should be exchange. We're not only
Yes.
taking information in, but then thinking about where do we then send that information. Nothing can collect in any one place or we become unhealthy. So thank you for thinking about how can this be shared and with whom can we share it. I would next like to invite Jim Claffey.
Well, good morning, all. Jim Claffey, I'm in New York, but I'm from Philadelphia, so I'm coming off a big win last night. Thank you. And I represent the Vincentian Priests and Brothers at the United Nations, and I'm a proud member of JCOR. Where I am right now is I'm hoping to maintain the right perspective on our work, even as our own government, the United States, is descending into some kind of madness, some kind of a circus. I want to make sure I keep the right perspective, which is that the work we do as NGOs, both this week, CSocD, and all the work that we do, really helps to have member states think about the common good, as Teresa said in her reflection. The common good is being lost. It's a lost entity anymore. And if we can maintain a sense of the common good in all the work that we do and help member states to avoid the narrow interests of their own government, to put people at the center, not only of development, but of every decision they make, then we would be able to accomplish extraordinary things, I think, at the UN. So that's my hope, and that's my concern, and that's what I have on my mind, top of my mind, as we begin this week. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and I share your excitement for the sporting events outcome of last night too, as another Philadelphian. Next, I would like to invite Sister Reggie. Sister, oh, there you go.
Good morning. Good morning to all. Thank you, Teresa, for leading us to a very wonderful and meaningful meditation. And also my hope is that to know more about that how the religious solidarity we express at UN. And also, how do we contribute to global issues and to understand the member state to act locally. So that is the dream, and I want to know more about it. Please, that is what. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie, and sorry for the echoing. I think it was because some of you are in the same room, so your speakers were hearing each other. But we were able to hear you in that you're looking particularly to hear about action from governments at the local level to ensure that the policies that are being proposed will really impact people who are part of communities like the one that you are serving when you are at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to invite Sister Saru Mutero.
Good afternoon. Greetings. Yes, I am also, I liked the reflection that you gave. It was very informing, and also I read the documents, and I am looking forward to more to say how is it going to unfold, and I find interest in making a follow-up on what is happening. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarudzai. Next, I would like to invite Michelle Loisel.
Good morning, everybody. And yes, I agree with everything was said before, and especially about this meditation reflection from Teresa. I'm not surprised because it's always very deep, and I like it very much. And I am a daughter of charity, representing the daughter of charity at the UN, International Daughters of Charity at the UN. And I am in New York this time. And I cannot see CSocD other than in the context of what we are living today. But also, in the context of hope, the year of hope that Pope Francis, opened some weeks ago. Because without that, our spirituality, is going to be sometimes empty. We cannot just survive without this spirit of hope in us. So I also think that, the inclusion we noticed, unity, solidarity, but also resilience. Because we need to be resilient today. This is at least I'm talking about myself, among these ups and downs. And for me, hope, is a prophetic courage. It is, also a prophetic response about what we live today. And hope is a decision, is an interaction, is a tenacious act of imagination in our life. So we need to be creative at this point, to be creative. And definitely believe that hope, in this world brings us to the eternal. And this is something we cannot touch, definitely. So what also, I think is during this CSocD session this week, what I will try to do is to be open to encounter of people that never we met maybe, but also the new ideas that can bring something new and hope, giving some sense of hope in our life. And sharing also with people, sharing is very important because it brings to us something, that never maybe we heard previously. And probably also what I think is the Spirit of God needs to be among these people today. And this is what I am going to wait for, to be aware that the Spirit is going to be there. And even if I am disappointed sometimes, and that can be, God is there in the middle of all this chaos we are living today. And this is.
Thank you, Michelle. I think your message is very connected to the sharing of Marta when she was speaking of hope as a political statement. And I think there is certainly a lot to be said in favor of bringing creativity into the conversations that we will have as part of this conference this week. Because it is so easy when we walk into a room at the UN where there is a very technical policy discussion happening, that our minds go into a somewhat narrow focus on that technical approach. And in fact, if we can retain the creativity that I think comes with spirituality, if we can retain that perspective and always try to ensure that even others in the room with us are able to keep the broad vision and to look, as you were saying, Michelle, to something beyond that which we can touch, beyond that which we can see now. and not to be so limited by the challenges of the present. That would be a huge service that we could offer as a spiritual community. Thank you all. Oh, and I see so we have another person who has joined us. So if you would like, Darlene, we have just been introducing ourselves and then sharing something that we are hoping for from our participation in this conference, whether it is something we hope to learn, some person or group that we hope to make a connection with, or something that we would hope to say, a message that we would hope to deliver. And we are also sharing our name and our connection with a congregation. Oh, okay. Darlene says she's on the move. She's in line at the pass office on her way to go into the UN. So she won't be speaking out loud with us, but thank you for joining us, Darlene. Okay, then I believe we have heard from everyone. So I will just then go back to one more small piece of a little bit of sharing and input. And I also want to say that I have put the link into our chat box to the guide that I have been speaking about. So if you have not already gotten access to that J-Core guide to CSocD, you can find the direct link to it there in the chat box. And so there are just a few more features of that guide that I want to highlight for all of you. One of which is the written statement that J-Core prepared and submitted to the Commission, so through the official channels of the UN system. And so this is on public record as a statement coming from the J-Core community, the 23 members of J-Core who have an accreditation at the UN. And I want to especially thank the many members of our global community who made significant contributions to the content of this statement. And they came from all over the world, and they shared very valuable observations and insights as to their own experiences of how they were seeing inequality happen in their own part of the world. And these observations became a very important component of the content of this statement. And so we hope that you will each take time to read the statement, which is available on our website in English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. And if you go to the guide, there is a link to the statement right there in the guide, which you can see in blue. And the overarching message of the statement is that our members around the world have observed a huge number of examples of situations in which the policies of government have attempted to resolve some kind of challenge with regard to social development or addressing poverty, along with economic development and environmental development. And rather than trying to create policies that support all three of these forms of development, we too often have seen policies that focus only on one part, one type of development. And unfortunately, the program or the strategy that government enacts is actually damaging to another area of development. So examples are like projects that are meant to enhance economic development by, say, starting up some major tourism operation in an area of a country that was previously a very pristine natural environment, perhaps one that was being cared for by an indigenous group or tribal group. And in an effort to boost economic growth, the government engages in some destruction of that environment, of that natural space, or maybe forces the indigenous population to vacate and leaves them in a state of poverty. But there are a great many examples that are offered in the statement, and in it you will find other applications of how we can bring some of our own spiritual perspective and faith-based social teaching into the secular conversation of the issues of development. So invite you all to explore that statement in more detail, and perhaps you might find there some messages that you might be interested in bringing into different conversations that you will have during your time participating in the commission this week. Other features that you will find in the guide are the details and the links about how to join the Civil Society Forum for the Commission, which is happening at the end of the week this year. So please be sure to look at that. It's a good bookend after meeting with civil society and joining this gathering at the start of the commission. This, in a way, is a good way to reconnect with all of civil society at the end of the commission. So please consider joining that as well. And for a list of other recommended events, most of which are sponsored by one of the members of JCOR or that have a topic that is of particular interest to us, there is a page on the JCOR website that offers all the details of when the events are happening and where. For those that are virtual, there are registration links. So you can find all of those details on those select recommendations in one place. And perhaps that will help you to make some decisions about what to do with your precious time when there are so many events happening at the same time. And finally, we also share a few places that you might like to direct your attention if you are someone who is on social media and who is using that as a space for advocacy. We offer lists of good accounts that you might like to follow, or other entities or groups that you might like to tag if you are writing your own posts. And finally, there is a declaration, a statement that is being delivered by all of civil society together today as part of the efforts of the NGO Committee on Social Development, of which has many members that are also part of JCOR and who represent Catholic congregations. And so if you have not read that document or considered signing it, I hope that you will do that, because that is another good way to get a sense of the positions that are being held in common by a wide variety of organizations, a wide variety of members of civil society at large, which is certainly a much larger community than Catholics alone. And so we hope you will also look at that to get some of that broader perspective. And I suspect to find significant or perfect overlap with the perspective that you might bring as a member of your congregation. And one final tool that I will offer, and this is not in the guide, but it will be shared with you via email, is some questions or prompts for further reflection that you might like to use as you continue to participate this week. Of course, this is completely optional for you, but these are some questions that you may find useful for your own planning and your own reflection for the days of this commission. And so the first set of prompts is designed to help you set some priorities or to find an area of focus from the wide variety of offerings in terms of programs and conversations that are available to you this week. And so to identify those priorities, you might look at the program for the commission and ask yourself, which of the sessions here are covering topics that align most closely with my personal passion or my ministry or the questions that I bring to this conference? Which sessions align most closely with my congregation's charism or our current priorities? Which panelists will be best equipped to answer my questions? Or which sessions am I most likely to gather the contact information of helpful future partners? Another set of questions that you might like to use are for the end of each day, or perhaps once in the middle of this week, to help you with that component of what can I take back to my community, or where can I share this information? And so to be sure you don't lose any valuable lessons from this week, you might take some time to ask yourself, what did I learn today that can support my ministry or the community that I serve? What did I hear today that does not align with or accurately reflect the lived reality of the community I serve? And who, meaning what person or government or organization, did I hear from today that I would like to communicate with further? And then the final set of prompts is for those who may be working on preparing your own message and perhaps refining it to something that you could share with others in conversation or even in a formal meeting or a statement at some time. And so these are a few steps to reflect on how to craft that message. And so it involves 3 considerations. First, of the communities that you serve or that your congregation serves. The second consideration is of your ministry itself. And the third is the role of government. And so first, when you think of the people that you serve or the congregation serves, you might ask yourself, what barriers to unity and opportunity are those people experiencing? Where is there a lack of unity or opportunity that is contributing to their suffering? And what services or information or other forms of support would allow this group to reach their full potential and to contribute meaningfully to the common good? Then, in considering your ministry, you might ask, where are we removing barriers to unity or opportunity? How are we creating pathways to solidarity with the community we serve? And finally, under the consideration of government, which might be either local government or national government, we might ask, how is the government building unity or solidarity among all people? How are they contributing to inclusion of the community that I serve? And those questions are very important, I will add, because while it's important for us to critique where government services are lacking, it is also very important and valuable to our ability to build connection and relationship with government leaders that we also observe when things are going well, when a program is working, and that we're able to give positive feedback as well when things are working well for the people that we want to serve. But on that other hand, we must also always ask, how is the government contributing to division among people? Or how is the government contributing to exclusion of the community that I serve? And then we ask questions of what is possible. We ask, how could the government enhance a sense of solidarity among our people? How might government enable more community members to realize their full potential so that they can contribute to the common good? So again, I know this is a long list of questions, which you will probably only maybe want to pick a couple from to give some serious thought, but they will all be shared with you by email, so you can have the opportunity to review them when you have a moment. And if there's one or two around which you feel particularly curious or inspired, then you might like to spend some time with those particular questions and digging a little bit deeper into what message or what reflection you might like to bring in to conversation this week or bring out to members of your community everywhere or in one particular place in the world. Are there any questions that anyone wanted to bring up, either about the conference itself or about how we can or might participate in it? Okay, not seeing any questions. Oh, Jim, you wanted to say something?
Just that I'm glad you included there, Teresa, the list of recommended activities this week, recommended events, because this is one of those weeks, and there are others, CSW, HLPF, where there's so much going on that you could just stand there and not do anything because you don't know where to turn, which one to register for. So that was good that you highlighted a couple specific ones, I think, that are especially important and sort of J-Core recommended. Thank you.
Of course. And I also put the direct link to that list is now in the chat box also. So if anyone has not visited that page yet, you can go directly to that list of recommended events if you click on that link. All right. See no other questions or requests to speak. So I will simply close by saying thank you all once again. It has been wonderful to spend time with you today as we embark on a new process. And I hope that you each have a very rich experience in whatever way that you are able to interact or engage with the Commission on Social Development this year. And I hope that you find some valuable kernel of knowledge or wisdom that might help you see a challenge in a different way. And I also hope that you're able to share some of the kernels of your own wisdom with others who you have the chance to meet and with whom you might interact this week. Please don't doubt that because you are maybe new to the process or new to the UN, that you are not entitled to speak or you are not qualified to speak, because indeed every process at the UN is a space for sharing experiences, and you all have a very rich background of different experiences that can contribute in a very powerful and meaningful way to the conversations that will be happening this week. So please do not hesitate to be an active participant whenever you have the
Before she goes,
opportunity.
before she switches.
Okay, so thank you all, and I will keep the room open for a minute or two just in case you want to get those links from the chat box. But otherwise, we are concluding this call now, and I wish you all a very fruitful commission experience.